have been just working through basically AP poll whiplash
Oh my gosh,
since Monday. I feel like women's college hoops is in its like volatility era. Like, are we still like, it's like the end of prestige. Like, the top four are still the top four, but it feels like everything else after that is basically a free for all. And you've got all of these ambitious sort of upper class, middle class, like strivers. And they're buoyed by all these modern forces, NIL, transfer portal. The overall level of talent in the game has sort of like flattened out the disparities that we've historically seen in the sport. So many programs are really investing in women's hoops. And this past week, with the amount of upsets that we saw, with the shakeup that we saw in the poll, it feels like, I don't know, this feels like a bit of a tipping point moment for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think in the beginning of the season, I was almost conned into thinking that there wasn't going to be as much parity this year because watching UConn early on, it looked like the UConn of old, where they're just so dominant that no one could touch them. And I do still think they're the favorite. And then kind of like you listed those top four with them and UCLA and Texas and South Carolina, I think they could easily be in the Final Four again. I wouldn't be surprised. But especially earlier in the season when we started seeing like D1 teams lose to D2, D3, NAIA schools, I was like, hold on, what's going on here? And so I think that's really exciting. And we're seeing teams, like Texas Tech break into the top 25, a team that's literally completely full of seniors. I think other than their new center, they added, I think Jalen Bristow was the only player, and she's a junior who's not a senior, that like gets time. So that's really exciting. Like they've waited their turn. They've worked so hard, and now they're kind of like shooting up the rankings. And then also, we just get days like Sunday and Thursday where it was pure chaos all around. And like, I woke up the next day having to kind of think, okay, what actually even happened yesterday? Because it was so much, it was just a blur.
No, totally. My head has been spinning. I saw you tweet like your brain, like basketball is basically like the only thing on your brain in your dreams right now, just trying to sort it all out. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Texas Tech. So you mentioned the top four, but out of the four teams that are actually undefeated, they're not actually the top four AP teams, right? Texas Tech is one of the teams that is undefeated. Vanderbilt, another one that we'll also talk about alongside Texas and UConn. But Texas Tech, 16-0, their best start in program history. And they're really like, they're fun watch overall. Like I really just like the depth that they have, like bringing off, oh gosh, I always write Snuda Collins off the bench. And she's leading the team in scoring off the bench, just their depth overall, the way that they play, like they pass the ball really well. They create a lot of deflections, and you can tell it's a team full of seniors, right? They're kind of like almost in that TCU ilk last year, where like part of the reason that they've been able to, win some of these close games, right? Like they won that close game against Baylor that I think really put them on the map. Of course, Talia Scott wasn't playing, so you take that with a grain of salt, but the way that they were able to finish that game was really impressive to me, especially what they were able to do defensively, right? So like they are an interesting team. They're ranked, I think, 17th in this year in this week's poll. I think they're like they're in the AP top 25 for the first time in like decades. Maybe it's been a really long time since they've been in this spot.
It's been a long time, yeah, for sure, a really long time, and I think. One of the things I appreciate about them is like they're not resting on their laurels. Like they went out over the holiday break and said, "Hey, I think we'll just go ahead and add a 7-1 center to our roster."
Yes.
And that must not have been easy to. I read a couple things where the coaching staff was saying like they were on the phone with her every day, like they were working their butts off to get her over here. So like this is a team that's clearly knows that like this is their window with all these seniors, and they're doing like everything they can to capitalize on it. I do think I don't think they're going to be undefeated for the rest of the season, or probably not for that much longer, even just because of how crazy everything is. But it is such an exciting story for sure. Yeah. West Virginia is a fun team too. Like ever since they beat Duke with just their 5 players, they've been on my radar for sure. I don't know that they can ever capture the magic of that game again, but they are a team that can upset people just because of their kind of wild defense, and they play so hard and they really muck things up, and that could be a challenge. But like we mentioned, Texas Tech, full of seniors, so they've played in difficult situations before.
Yeah, definitely. But like they do have, the Big 12 is going to gear up for them too. Like, they're going to have
Mhm.
Iowa State coming up. They're going to have Kansas
Yes.
State coming up. They're going to have Baylor, who we'll talk about as well. But yeah, I mean, you meant like the 7 footer that you're talking about, Stephanie Okechukwu. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. We haven't
I think
heard it
it's
on the podcast
Okachuku,
yet. So,
but yeah,
Okechukwu. Okay.
Okachuku. I
Okay.
listened to a couple
Okay.
pronunciations, but we'll figure it out. If we
Okay.
don't have it
Thank you. I
right now, I'm
appreciate that.
sure we will eventually because she's gonna be making some noise, obviously.
Absolutely. Very interesting player, right? Like, she's an
Mhm,
actual 7'1" player. She's gonna
mhm.
when she eventually plays, she's going to be the tallest player in women's college basketball history. She only started playing basketball at 16. She trained a lot in Nigeria. She has attended high school in Japan. She's got a very interesting background, but her development is really just beginning. So I'm just interested in seeing how much eligibility she'll have, like how the NCAA kind of decides that, because she is 21 years old, but she's so early in her basketball career. Like, we really just like don't really know too much about her, but to me she also speaks to this, like, we saw South Carolina go out and get their like 6'6" French woman. Now Texas Tech is doing the same thing. Like, NIL has sort of like disrupted the foreign market alongside disrupting so many aspects of sports, and Texas Tech is like one of these schools. Like, they were one of the first to, kind of, they had one of the big team-wide NIL deals in women's college basketball before a lot of other teams did. They're kind of like traditionally a football school that is sort of diverting some of those funds over to their women's basketball program. Like, they were very much in the hunt for Aaliyah Chavez, like pretty late in the game as well. And she's from Lubbock. It makes me curious what would have happened now, like, with the fact that even without her, they're making all this noise. Like, I think it could have been electric if she went there. Obviously, is like, having a good time at Oklahoma. I'm sure she doesn't
Yeah,
have
she
any
fits in
regrets. But
great at Oklahoma, but it's
yeah,
definitely would have been fun to see.
it's a fun what if, and but it also speaks to, look, now that they are having a season like this in the future, this is the kind of season that helps you kind of get on the radar for future
Mhm.
recruits. And next time there is an Aaliyah Chavez or a big prospect coming out of that SEC area, even though they are a Big 12 school, like, that sort of, there's so much basketball talent in that area, the Oklahoma, Texas area.
Mhm.
You see Aaliyah Crump going to Texas. Texas
Yeah.
Tech could be one of those teams.
Oh, absolutely, and I think, it's twofold. One, like, when you see teams like Texas Tech and programs like that school who do have a lot of money coming in, you know,
Hmm.
investing in women's basketball, that's huge because I think across the board, women's basketball is growing so much and there's so many people
Hmm.
saying, "Oh, we want to invest in this, we want to invest in this," but then they don't actually do that. So what we're seeing at Texas Tech is like they really are doing that. And then at the same time, of course, nothing attracts good recruits like success, right? So
Exactly.
if they have a great season, of course, more people are going to want to come there if they see that, these players that have transferred in are having success or the ones that stuck it out for 4 years are doing well. Obviously, that's going to make more people want to come there.